Should you run a one call close sales structure, or you should have a two-step sales structure where you first qualify and set people and then and only then send them to a sales call? Both of these systems are good, but they have a very specific pros and cons that make them fitting for different stages in the business. And the most important thing you're going to get from this video is I'm going to break down each style of running the sales process, the one call close versus two call close, and I'll explain for what business and at what stage they're a good fit so that you can make the right choice for your business. Because implementing, for example, the two call close structure too early in your business can absolutely choke the sales traffic and the lead traffic to you and your sales team, and can absolutely have a detrimental impact on your business. And you should definitely consider running a one call close structure. And again, how to implement one call close structure, the things you have to be aware of, and the big pros and cons. And again, for the two call close structure, I'm going to explain in this video. This video is extremely important because this is a decision that you make once and then you commit to it, right? You cannot change sales structures every time. So once you pick something, you're going to pick one call close or two call close, you'll have to commit to it at least for the next minimum half a year, maybe even a couple of years, until your business gets to the next stage where you have to make a switch. But to make a decision, you have to make it smartly and having all the data and intel that's going to help you to make the right decision. So let's go to my share screen and I'll unfold how both of these work, the pros and cons, and which one you should pick for your business. And in case you're wondering who I am, my name is Nazim, and in the last 10 years, I've made my clients over $40 million in sales, including running a sales team for Passion.io, actually creating it from scratch, recruiting all the salespeople, scaling the sales team, and having them generate over $5 million in sales in just 2 years flat. So I definitely know what I'm talking about when it comes to sales. So let's get into it. All right, welcome everybody. Let's get started. One call close versus two call close. Just to have complete alignment in terms of terminology, the main call where you actually enroll people on your offers, I'm going to call it a closing call. It can also be called a demo call. It can be called like the actual sales call, but I'm just going to, call it closing just because it just makes it easy to understand that you actually close a prospect on a sale. And then for the triage calls, or the calls where you actually vet people to see if they're a qualified fit for the closing call, I'm going to call them setting calls. In some industries, they're also called triage calls, right? So again, the closing call is the 60-minute plus call that you usually have to close a prospect on your offers. A triage call usually lasts about 15 to 30 minutes to see if the prospect is a qualified fit. So let's get started. First, I'm going to explain to you how the one call close structure works, the pros, the cons, and then some ninja tips and tricks on how you can make it work better. And also, I'm going to explain in what cases it works best. And then I'm going to move on to the two call close. So let's get started with the diagram and basically how it works. With the one call close, what comes first is the funnel. In both cases, what comes first is the funnel. So essentially, people opt in for your video sales letter, or they buy your low ticket item, they watch your webinar, whatever, and then they turn into a lead, right? They convert into a lead. And then what happens is that a lot of times they're sent to a booking form, right? So there's a booking form, and then it can also have a survey form, right? Now, the survey form can be separate, right, to the booking form, or it can be together, right? Just to make it super easy for you guys to show you how the two variations look, I'm going to show you my booking form. So my booking form, for example, has the questions embedded to it. Obviously, I don't ask that many questions because what I sell is personalized, individualized one-on-one consulting, and I always do a triage first. So for me, it's not necessary to ask that many questions, but this is what a booking form looks like when you basically ask questions and then also have people book at the same time. And if you want to see a form that looks like this, where you first ask questions and then it sends you to a separate booking form, well, this is what it looks like essentially. See, there's some questions that people ask, there's like a form, and then after you answer all the questions, you then get sent to a calendar page, right? What's better, what's worse? I would say if you're just getting started, put everything on one page. Put the time booking app and the questions all in one place, because if you ask questions first and then send them to a booking form, it's going to reduce your amount of leads, which is good because the leads will go up in quantity. But if you're just getting started, you're not making, I would say, at least 30, 50K per month, I would say put them all in one place, right? It will maximize the quantity of your bookings while giving you some data on the prospect that booked a call, right? So from the funnel, it comes to a lead, and then it turns into a prospect, right? Because they booked a call with you, it turns into a sales prospect. And here you have the closing call, right? The closing call is typically, like I said, 45 to 60 plus minutes, where you actually try to enroll a prospect on your products, right? So who's this setup good for? This setup is good for beginners, right? And when I say beginners, what I mean by that is you're making, I would say, less than $30,000 per month. And what's important for you is to maximize the amount of calls you get on your calendar, right? Here, when you're making less than $30,000 per month, in my opinion, you're not trying to optimize for lead quality so much. Obviously, you should cancel out people who, for example, if in the booking form, if they answer, I'm making less than, let's say, X amount of money that you need for the person to make sense to make the purchase with you, you should disqualify them. Or if they say I'm unemployed or whatever, right? Whatever the qualifying criteria is for you, you should totally cancel them, but you should just keep it at that, right? So your qualifying should not be as strict. If you look at your qualifier as a tube, right? This is how you should keep your tube when you're less than 30K per month, right? So this is you if you're less than 30K per month, and this is you if you are more than 100K per month, right? So I think this is, if you're more than 100K per month, right? Or sorry, if you're more than 30K per month. I mean, really, it makes sense. It makes most sense as you get closer to 100K per month. But let's convenience sake say if you're more than 30K per month, you can actually start optimizing for lead quality, right? And what does that look like? Optimizing for lead quality. I'm going to show you in this setup, which is called two-call close. This is obviously, I would describe it as advanced, right? I'm going to put advanced here. And guys, by the way, advanced does not mean better, right? If you are making it less than 30K per month, this is best for you. Doing this it doesn't mean it's better because it's advanced. Like, kick this logic out of your head, right? This is what's best for you, is what fits you at this moment, right? So that's that. Let's now talk a little bit about some trips, well, let's talk about cons, and then I'll move on to tips and tricks. So pros of this model, again, of the beginner model. The pros, number one, is that it just allows you to make a lot of offers. You make more offers just because you get on calls with more people. It's that simple. This is the biggest pros. Like, you actually get to talk to more people, and just purely because of that, you will close more people. The cons can be reduced lead quality, right? Obviously, because you're not qualifying them so much, obviously lower quality people will make their way to the call, and it's just you have to eat that. You have to eat that damage, right? At this stage, you'll have to waste a little bit of your personal time to get this benefit, which is maximizing making offers. After you make a lot of offers and you close more people, you can then move on to advanced two-call structure and actually start hiring setters here at this stage. I'll explain how to do that. But you have to eat that, right? That negative. And then another con is that it is no, actually that's it. Sorry. I'm just looking at my notes, trying to see and make sure that I'm not missing out on anything. But this is it. It's as simple as that. right? If you have people book a call immediately, you still have to, you still ask them a couple of questions. You'll absolutely maximize the amount of people you talk to, because remember the example with circles, right? You are keeping your lead flow open. You're not constricting it too much, but then obviously you'll have to waste your time a little bit. And I get that. And if you don't like it, I get that. You don't like talking to broke people. I get that. But it's just the damage you'll have to eat, because in my opinion, the positive you get from making literally 2 times as many offers outshines wasting your time with, like, literally, I mean, in some cases, 2x low quality leads. It's still worth it. Trust me. Just purely from math perspective. Let's say if you, instead of getting 10 calls, you're getting 20, and instead of getting on like 3 calls with unqualified leads, you get on, let's say, 6 to 8. You still get on more sales calls, twice as many sales calls, right? So if you were getting 10 calls with advanced method and getting on calls with only 3 unqualified leads, which leaves you with net total of 7 calls, here you still get on 12 to 14 sales calls, like good sales calls. Now you might be asking, Nazim, well, why the hell would anyone do advanced option anyway? Well, you need that when you scale, right? Because as you scale, you'll start building out a sales team, and you want your sales team to be on the best leads, right? So while beginner model is more effective, advanced model is more efficient, right? But it only makes sense once you start getting volume. So let's talk about the advanced model, right? Oh, sorry, one more thing. Tips and tricks. I'm all over the place in this video. So tips and tricks on how to absolutely rock your one call close structure. So number one, if your conversion mechanism is good, it will automatically qualify people even way before they get on a call with you, and without having you run them through a setting call. So what do I mean by conversion mechanism? If you have a very good webinar that really sets the expectations clear, who is this for, who is this not for, and then also talks about benefits that are very specific to a very specific audience, right? And also gives very specific case studies, right? Which disqualifies people that are not a good fit. It will, again, not cure the con, like low quality at its root, but it will reduce it drastically, right? So that's important, right? So if your conversion mechanism and what you tell them before they get to book a call is good, it will improve your lead quality. So really focus on qualifying them as much as possible in your conversion mechanism. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is sales reminders, and sales collateral. And then sales collateral, right? Sales collateral is actually sales assets that you send them to help prospects to prepare better before the closing call, right? So sales reminders and sales collateral, if you do a very good job of sending good reminders, and I don't mean your call, hey, this is a calendar reminder, your call starts in 30 minutes. I don't mean that. I mean, if you send them case studies, and again, not just like, hey, watch this YouTube video, and the video is like 45-minute video of a guy just blabbering on about how great you are. Sure, it's better than nothing, but I mean, like, a well-designed sales collateral, like for example, like a sales brochure or sales pamphlet, then that's good, right? And then also, what I actually also personally like is in the sales reminder emails, sending case studies, but also in the written format. I actually signed up for a sales call with one company, and they were sending me not just YouTube videos, as in case studies before the call, but actual written media as well. And I never watch. I like to know that there are YouTube testimonial videos for the person I just signed up for a sales call with, but I never watched them. But I read the case study because it was literally a 2-minute read. I had nothing to do. I was on my email and I read it. So sales collateral, again, brochures that describe your offer, the benefits, right? Then case studies, right? Video, but also most importantly, written, right? So these two, these two are a must have if you're going to run with the one call structure, because again, you're trying to minimize the cons. So that's that. Let's talk about advanced, right? Let's look at the funnel design. Everything starts very similarly. It's the funnel that turns them into a lead, and then here it's also a form and survey. And here you can also run different orders. You can either put them all in one spot, or you can first send them to a survey and then the booking form. I personally like putting them all in one place. I don't like separating them much, right? I like to have, if you want an example, I like to have like one page. So there's like time booking, and then there's maybe like 4 or 5 questions, qualifying questions. And generally what I've discovered, and not just me, like pretty much any other marketer, the more questions you add to the form, the lower the booking rate is going to be. So you want to add as few questions as possible. I think it's a good mindset to still get the job done, to really understand if it's a qualified or lead or not, right? If you run a B2B sort of offer, then I think must-haves are website, and then current revenue. You can ask about that. Honestly, like if you just ask these two and they point at their website and you can see it's a legit business, you can study on the business, on what the business is. That's enough, right? And a website is going to replace what do you like, questions like what do you sell, like who do you sell to, blah, all this stuff, right? You don't need it. Just ask for a website, ask for revenue. Now, if you don't sell B2B, they don't have a website. Okay, well then you'll have to ask some of the basic questions, right? Like, what's your goal? What's your biggest problem, etc., etc., right? Actually, in some cases, I wouldn't even ask, like, what's your problem? Because if they watch the webinar and your webinar talks about lead generation, obviously lead generation is their problem, right? So I would minimize it as much as possible. So that's a tip for advanced. Moving forward, right? They turn into a prospect, right? But this is, for now, in using marketing terms, this is not a sales qualified prospect yet. So this is pre-SQL. This is a B2B sales term. So SQL stands for sales qualified lead, right? This is not a sales qualified lead, right? This you can call it marketing qualified lead. And after they go through a setting call, then they turn into an SQL, sales qualified lead, and then there's a closing call, right? So when it comes to setting, again, the thing is 15 to 30 minutes. Typically it's it's 20 minutes. And then the biggest thing for setting is to qualify them and make sure that the person you're going to be setting for a demo is not a time waster, right? And the reason why it's important is that when you're going to be running the 2 cold call structure, it's important to do a very good job of qualifying a lead, because most likely when you'll implement the 2 cold call structure, you will, let me just erase this as well so it's not in the way. You will be taking, in the very beginning, when you just implement this, you'll be taking closing calls, and you want to make sure that you're getting fed the cream of the crop leads. Otherwise, what's the benefit of running a 2 cold call structure? You may as well just do the 1 cold call structure. The benefit is that you're getting fed cream of the crop leads, which means setting becomes incredibly important, right? Setting becomes incredibly important. Right now, let's talk about setting. I'll produce more setting videos on my channel and actually how to set people. But let's review literally the most typical sales setting framework there is, which is called BANT, right? Budget, authority, need, time, right? So BANT. Sorry, that was a very ugly line, but as you can see, BANT, right? And essentially what you want to set for, if they have the budget, if they are the right person that, to be set on a closing call, if they have a need, and then if it's a good time for them. And one of the tips I was going to give you about the 2 cold call structure is the most important point about setting is to qualify people, right? And let me write it with big ass letters, because so many people approach their setting calls almost such as as if they were a receptionist or administrator calling someone to confirm a call. The point of a setting call is not to confirm, is to qualify, right? And what qualifying means is essentially getting their buy-in on a couple of things. So I would get their buy-in that they have a problem, They should admit that they have a problem. We should get their buy-in on their goals. Hey, I have a meaningful goal that I would like to achieve. We should get their buy-in on why now is a good time to do this. And then it would be very nice to also get their kind of like at least some buy-in on why us, right? Before a closing call, before you pitch them your offer, before they see how awesome it is, you rarely have a person's complete buy-in, but it's still good to have, right? So again, the point of a setting call is to qualify. You qualify and you make them come to you, you get their buy-in on that they have a problem, that they want to solve it, that now's a great time and why now's a great time, that they have a meaningful goal, and then they personally also like you. It's a nice to have, right? And then it's the closing call. The closing call is when you actually pitch, right? Is when you pitch and you close. It's as simple as that. Now again, let's go over some pros and cons of the two cold call structure, right? Let me make up some space here and let's talk about pros and cons. They'll be obvious to you. I think I already covered them. Let's do it again. So pros, obviously, higher lead quality is a must. If you're running two cold call structure and essentially your offer rate on closing calls is not 70-80%, then you're literally wasting your time doing a two cold call structure. So what your offer rate means is actually out of 10 people, how often you make offers, right? How often do you go through a full-blown information gathering phase where you ask them questions and you realize that this person is qualified, I can make them an offer. If it's not at least 7 or 8 out of 10, you're wasting time. So offer rate needs to be 80% plus. Barely fit it in here, right? So increased quality is a must, right? Also, if you do your setting calls right, if you do them perfectly, actually, it's supposed to make leads more hyped. And that's actually what a good setter will do. Because as they get their buy-in, a person gets more hyped and more serious about their goals. And a good setter, when they set them, is also going to drop a few gems, such as, all right, Mark, I understand, what is it that you need? Actually, just between you and I literally spoke with one other guy 3 months ago who was in exactly your shoes. And I just got a message 2 weeks ago from the delivery team that the dude is just killing it now. So you're in his shoes. The guy's doing great. We took care of him. I'm super excited to set you up for this closing call with Kenneth. Right? So they're supposed to be more hyped if you do it well. Cons. What are the cons? It's just quantity. Right? Just because you constrict the amount of leads that you get on closing calls, you'll have fewer leads to talk to, which is why it's incredibly important that you talk not only, but mostly for the cream of the crop leads. I used to be in sales teams where we would switch from one call to call structure, and the offer rate would literally stay the same. And it was a waste. Obviously, we had to attack setting and improve it immediately, because what the hell is the point if your offer rate does not go up? Offer rate here in the beginner one call structure it will probably be around 50%, give or take, unless you have an extremely strong brand, you're in a great industry with people with pockets full of cash. It's going to be 50% more or less, right? Here it should be 80% plus. Again, you lose quantity but you win quality. Right, now let's talk about some tips and tricks, right, when it comes to advanced two cold call structure, right? So tips and tricks. So tip number one, and these are going to sound kind of like random, right? Um, but since setting is the most important thing when it comes to setting, when it comes to cold call structure, I'm going to give you tips on how to rock your setting, right? So the first one is, again, I actually already said it here, but the first one is to qualify the hell out of them and get their buy-in. This is super important. Buy-in on their goals. I'll repeat it again, that they have a problem, their buy-in on why now, and why us, or why you. The second tip is essentially this tip I'm going to give you is going to increase their lock-in rate for sales calls and increase show-up rate for sales calls. Also, one more thing I forgot to put here, guys, is one other con here is that show rates are lower, 100%. The show rates are lower because, again, they watch a video or something and then they book a call, especially if they have to book out for more than 2 days in advance. The show rate is going to be lower because, and the reason why it's going to be higher here is because between this point where they convert and this point where they get on a closing call, they're going to have a human interaction, right? Which will again increase their commitment if done right? And they're going to feel more connected to the offer and the whole sales process, right? So how do you increase the lock-in or the show-up rate for closing calls? I learned this line, very simple line, from Cole Gordon. It goes as the following. When you're setter, or when you do the setting and you lock in someone for a time, let's say, hey, Mark, is 5 p.m. on Thursday sounds good? Does that sound good? And Mark says, yes, sounds good. You say the following line. You say, cool, got it. Mark, will you please can you? Will you please let me know if anything changes and you cannot make 5 p.m. on, I think it was Thursday? You go mute. Mark says, yeah. What happens there is that when you say can you, everybody say, yeah, I can. You can do a lot of things. But do you? No. Right? So the will you is a much higher commitment than can. Or the worst is could. So you ask, will you let me know? And then on top of that, you double down and you say, okay, cool, sounds good. And the only reason I'm asking is because Nazim kind of, and you can say jokingly, right? So it doesn't sound like the closer is abusing the setter. You can say Nazim, who I'm going to set you up with, kind of gives me a hard time when I set up people and they don't show up. So will you please do that? They say yes. So not only do they guarantee that they will, which is connected to their man's word or a woman's word, like their word, generally as a human being, right? Which is, to a lot of us, it's worth a lot. And then also, you come from this frame of asking them for a favor, and who typically rejects people in their favors? Douchebags, right? Or unempathetic people, and people don't want to come across as such. So you come from this inferior frame. It's also what Cole Gordon likes to say, inferior frame. Like, could you please? Right? You're asking them. And if they're not going to say no, right? No. They'll say yes. And then they'll feel obliged to show up because they don't want to let you down, because they gave you their word, right? So that's it, guys. This is how this whole system works. If you, in your business, if you're having a hard time understanding which one you should implement, or you're having a hard time in implementing either one of these systems, go to nazimconsulting.com and apply for a strategy session. I'm going to personally audit your entire sales systems, and then I'm going to recommend which one you should use, right? Because again, this one is less than 30K. This is more than 30K, but there's still some nuances to be considered. And then I'm also going to give you a roadmap on how to implement the system flawlessly in your business. Thanks for watching this video. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.